hand out a loaner, would you? Yoo-hoo! We're only kidding!
All right, gang, welcome back to the Nostalgia Network, where we talk about all things Gen X nostalgia. Let's talk about something today that if you grew up in the 80s with a VCR and zero parental supervision, defined your stage of puberty. Remember those Friday nights at the video store, standing in the action aisle surrounded by VHS boxes with just insane artwork that was just as unbelievable as it was exhilarating, we'll say. While everyone else was watching Rambo and Commando, some of us were head down, ankles up, digging deeper into the bargain bin, pulling out titles that looked like they were filmed in the Philippines for the price of a used PINTO, and, to be honest, most of them were. These were rites of passage for latchkey kids who lived for that glorious period between 3 p.m. and whenever your parents got home. Because the only thing more plentiful than guns and explosions in these movies were bikinis and boobs. We're talking about films that weaponized two pieces, turned school buses into tanks, and asked the important question like, what if ninjas fought a rock band? Today we're taking a chronological ride through the 10 most gloriously unhinged action exploitation films that'll make you question why anyone ever thought martial arts and mind control villains were a good mix. And then immediately want to watch them all over again with your finger on the pause button. For now, let's press play, everybody.
The Flash, Gypsy Billy, Gorilla, Hot Dog.
We're going to start with 1981's Kill and Kill Again. There's that VHS cover that caught your eye at Family Video, and it's the one where the dude was like doing a flying back kick that demonstrated maximum martial arts mayhem was happening right there on your screen. This South African gem followed martial artist James Ryan as he assembles a team of quirky fighters, each with their own gimmick, to rescue a scientist kidnapped by a mind control villain who's basically trying to create an army of potato people with a real weird serum. Now, we got a motorcycle riding strongman, a fly swatting master, and combat choreography that ranges from genuinely impressive to, did he miss that guy by about 3 feet? And this sequel to Kill or Be Killed leaned hard into the comic book aesthetic, and honestly it works. The whole thing feels like someone adapted a Saturday morning cartoon for drunk adults, and the film became a cult favorite on late night cable throughout the entire 80s, introducing American audiences to South African action cinema while making absolutely zero sense in the best possible way.
Meet Cody Abilene, a private eye with an adoring public.
Malibu Express came out in 1985 by Andy Sidaris, and he must have looked at James Bond and said, what if we did that with a lot more bikinis and a little worse acting, and maybe a plot that's basically just an excuse to film attractive people near water? Enter Cody Abilene, a name so 80s it should come with a synthesizer soundtrack, a private detective investigating espionage while riding around in a DeLorean-esque sports car, and encountering approximately one plot point per shirtless beach scene. The mystery involves computer chip theft. But let's be real, you're here for the playmates, remote-controlled cars and mounted cameras and action sequences that feel like someone's ambitious home movie with actual explosions. Sidaris basically invented his own genre with this one, creating a template he'd repeat for the next decade. The bullets, bombs, and babes formula that would define his entire career. If you ever wondered what hard-boiled detective fiction would look like filtered through a Baywatch fever dream, man, this is your answer. And honestly, it's kind of perfect for what it is.
Sorry, babe, but I gotta have some water.
We're going to get real here in 1985's Naked Vengeance. And this is a Filipino-American revenge thriller that takes the woman seeks vengeance template and cranks the exploitation elements to 11. And we're following Carrie, who returns to her small town only to witness her family brutally murdered by local scumbags. And what follows is exactly what the title promises, a raw, brutal revenge quest that borrows heavily from I Spit on Your Grave and Miss 45, but with that distinct Cirio H. Santiago production style that means you're getting your violence with a side of questionable dubbing. Star Deborah Trinelli, fresh off soap opera fame, commits fully to the role in a film that's genuinely uncomfortable viewing because a staple of the video nasty era for its unflinching approach to its grim subject matter. Santiago, a legendary figure in Filipino exploitation cinema, churned this out during his insanely productive period where he made seemingly a dozen movies a year. And while it's not for everyone, It definitely delivers on its promise of low-budget 80s action exploitation energy, just maybe not the fun kind we get with Malibu Express. This one's heavy.
By day, she's blinded by hate. By night, a ruthless avenger.
Surprise. No, God! Don't you want to know how this thing works?
Naked vengeance.
We're going to leap ahead 1 year to 1986 and talk about War Bus. Imagine if you took the Gauntlet, Mad Max, and probably an episode of the A-Team, threw them in a blender and filmed the result in the Philippines for approximately, $17. This Italian production follows a group of refugees and a Vietnam vet who commandeer a school bus, weld scrap metal to it, and basically create the world's most impractical tank to escape through hostile territory while being chased by literally everyone. We've got flamethrowers mounted on a bus, machine guns sticking out the windows, and action sequences that alternate between surprisingly competent and did that extra just run into the explosion on purpose? Director Ferdinando Baldi, who's been making spaghetti westerns since like the 60s, brought that same shoot first, logic later energy to this gonzo vehicle warfare film that absolutely knew what it was and did not apologize for it. The whole thing feels like someone pitched Rambo meets Speed 5 years before Speed even existed, and honestly, that jury-rigged bus is still one of the most memorable improvised vehicles in low-budget action cinema in the Philippines in the 80s.
Next time I give you an order, don't make me say it twice.
Future Hunters. The year is 2025. The Earth is a treacherous wasteland ruled by...
This is going to be one of my favorites. It's 1986 as well, and it's Future Hunters. And holy hell, where do we even start with this one? You've got a post-apocalyptic opening. Then it jumps to the present day where anthropologists discover a magical spear, which leads to kung fu fights, Nazi-esque villains, bikers, Amazons, midget assassins, and Richard Norton doing what Richard Norton does best, kicking people in exotic locations. The plot is basically a treasure hunt that gives the filmmakers an excuse to throw in every single exploitation element they could think of, including a sequence where our heroes literally get crucified, and it all somehow involves both time travel and the Spear of Longinus, the one that allegedly pierced Jesus, because, throw that in there, why not? Again, director Cirio H. Santiago was clearly working through some kind of everything but the kitchen sink fever dream here, cramming more genres into 96 minutes than should be legally allowed. And this one is peak VHS chaos, the kind of movie where you'd watch it with your buddies at 12 a.m., constantly pausing to yell, wait, what? At the screen. And honestly, that's exactly the energy Future Hunters deserves.
I'm from another time. You must finish what I cannot.
Today, the nobodies who made you rich are gonna win. Die, you son of a bitch.
Deadly Prey came out in 1987. And if someone asked, what if Rambo, but no budget, no permits, and filmed in someone's backyard, you'd get Deadly Prey, and it would be glorious. Ted Pryor stars as Mike Danton, a mullet-sporting former Special Forces soldier who gets kidnapped from his suburban home while taking out the trash in the shortest shorts you'd ever seen, and dumped in the woods to be hunted by mercenaries training for some vague, mercenary things. What follows is 88 minutes of Mike absolutely destroying these dudes with nothing but sticks, rocks, booby traps, and pure rage. We're talking Rambo-style carnage, but with that special direct-to-video charm where blood looks like paint and every death is accompanied by spectacular overacting. And director David A. Pryor and his brother Ted made this for basically no money, and you could tell everyone involved was having the time of their lives. The villain chews scenery like it's the last meal. There's a scene where Mike literally rips the guy's arm off and beats him with it. And the final showdown is in a random junkyard because, of course it is. This became the ultimate so bad it's amazing action film, spawning a sequel 27 years later because apparently the world needed more Mike Danton. And you know what? The world wasn't wrong. They got it right.
We have the one, the only, Dragon Sound!
We're staying in 1987 and we're going to talk about Miami Connection. Obviously, this one's not in the Philippines. Ninjas, rock bands, drug dealers, cocaine, taekwondo, Orlando, Florida. If that sentence structure doesn't make sense, congratulations, you understand Miami Connection. This legendary train wreck follows Dragon Sound, a rock band made up of martial art experts, of course, who battle drug-dealing motorcycle ninjas while playing songs about friendship and being against ninjas. Y.M. Kim, who also produced, co-wrote, and financed this passion project, stars as Mark, the band's leader who just wants to rock out and teach martial arts, but keeps having to fight increasingly absurd villains in parking lots and on beaches. Originally bombing so hard that Kim buried all prints in his garage, this film was rediscovered by Drafthouse Films in 2012 and became a midnight movie phenomenon, celebrating everything wrong yet somehow right about 80s action cinema. The fight choreography is actually pretty solid. Kim was a legitimate Taekwondo grandmaster, but it's surrounded by dialogue written by people who'd clearly never had a conversation in real life, and a plot that makes about as much sense as that whole ninjas dealing cocaine premise, and a sincerity that makes the whole thing actually a little endearing. If Hard Ticket to Hawaii is Sidaris at peak formula, Miami Connection is what happens when enthusiastic amateurs accidentally create art, and honestly both belong on anyone's Essentials 80s action viewing list.
Major, this Ransom, is he really that good? There's no one who can touch him.
1987 was hitting some bangers, man. 1987 Strike Commando. Reb Brown, the man whose screams could shatter glass and whose acting style can only be described as maximum volume at all times, stars in this shameless Rambo 2 ripoff that somehow manages to be even more over the top than its inspiration. Brown plays Sergeant Mike Ransom, and that's a kick-ass name, a Special Forces soldier betrayed during a mission in Vietnam who then goes full revenge mode against both the Viet Cong and his own corrupt commanders, screaming battle cries that probably violated several noise ordinances during filming. Italian director Bruno Mattei, using his Vincent Dawn pseudonym because even he knew this was ridiculous, basically Xeroxed the Rambo 2 script, changed some names, slashed the budget by looks like about 99%, and told Brown to compensate for production value through sheer vocal intensity. The film delivers exactly what that formula promises. Man, it's jungle warfare, explosive carnage, and Reb Brown making facial expressions that suggest he's perpetually surprised by his own existence. All wrapped in that special Italian exploitation cinema charm where dubbing never quite matches mouth movements. This became a staple of video stores everywhere, sitting right next to all those other guy with a gun in the jungle tapes, and honestly, Brown's commitment to screaming his way through every scene makes this essential viewing for anyone who thought Rambo wasn't quite loud enough.
Donna and Taryn crash land into the center of a search for a ton of gold. Where there's gold, there's greed, and murder rules the...
We're going to skip ahead a little bit to 1989, and we're going to dig into Savage Beach. This one, who had Andy Sidaris, who you must have looked at his previous work and thought, you know what my spy action films need? Hidden World War II gold, a deserted island, and, oh hell, even more Playboy playmates with guns. And thus, Savage Beach was born. This time, DEA agents Donna and Taryn crash land on a remote Hawaiian island while transporting evidence, only to stumble into a three-way battle between Philippine treasure hunters, a Japanese officer who doesn't know World War II ended, and their own agency trying to recover them. The plot is characteristically nonsensical, somehow involving Filipino rebel factions, long-lost gold, and multiple groups converging on the same beach with perfect timing. But that's never been the point of a Sidaris film. What matters is the ratio of explosions to bikinis to impossible action sequences, and Savage Beach delivers that formula with the confidence of a director who's made basically the same movie 5 times and knows exactly what his audience wants. This entry in the Bullets, Bombs, and Babes series, that's what Sidaris called this interconnected film universe, connects to his previous work while turning the exploitive elements up to maximum, proving that sometimes the best thing an exploitation filmmaker can do is know exactly what they're making and commit hard.
Left for Dead. Philip Ryan is about to live again. Half man, half machine.
This is a title that we're all going to dig, and it's 1993 Cyborg Cop. And technically this one's from 93, but it's so spiritually connected to everything we've been talking about that it deserves inclusion as the perfect bridge between 80s action insanity and the PM entertainment 90s that would follow. David Bradley stars as Jack Ryan, no relation to Clancy's character, a DEA agent whose brother gets kidnapped by a mad scientist creating cyborg super soldiers in a Caribbean island fortress. Because apparently that's just what evil scientists do on islands. They can't get enough of them. What follows is exactly what you want from a movie called Cyborg Cop. Lots of running through industrial complexes, cyborgs with glowing red eyes fighting regular humans, and Bradley showcasing the martial arts skills that made him American Ninja 3 standout while surrounded by a practical effects that range from pretty cool to, is that a Radio Shack special? Director Sam Furstenberg, who previously helmed multiple canon classics including Revenge of the Ninja and American Ninja, brought his efficient action sensibilities to this South African co-production that looks way better than its budget suggests. This spawned 2 sequels and basically predicted the DTV action formula that would dominate throughout the 90s. Take a competent martial artist, add some sci-fi elements you can barely afford, film somewhere cheap, and let the action do the talking. It's not quite as unhinged as Miami Connection or as gleefully stupid as Deadly Prey, but Cyborg Cop represents that moment when low-budget action started getting slightly more professional while keeping all the insane energy we loved about the decade before. We just spotlighted 10 absolutely glorious movies that show what the 80s were all about, man. Big ideas, tiny budgets, and zero fear. From Bikini Spies to a screaming Reb Brown to that beautiful Miami Connection Friends song, these films just won for it. Look, none of them are winning any awards, but who cares? They delivered exactly what their ridiculous VHS covers promised. Which ones did you rent back in the day or catch on USA Up All Night or Joe Bob Briggs? What are we missing? Drop your favorite in the comments, and if you're not immediately firing up Tubi after this, I don't know what to tell you. Hit subscribe for more of this stuff, and remember, keep it retro and keep it on VHS.